Now, France's Labour Reform Bill has sparked protests and demonstrations for months now that the government has forced the legislation through without parliamentary approval. Those protests look set to intensify. But recent demos have turned violent, and ugly scenes could be replicated as activists vow to stop the bill by whatever means possible. Well, France 24 met with two far-left activists, both determined to protest, but both employing different tactics to make their voices heard. Patrick Lovett and Jean Barrère bring us today's Focus Report.
Lucy is part of a group the French media has labelled the casseurs, literally those who break things. We followed her during the demonstration on May Day in Paris, trying to understand what motivates her and why she covers her face as she makes her way to the front of the protest. This isn't Erwan's first demonstration either. He leads the security services of an anarchist union that's existed since 1946. With them, we caught a glimpse of France's at times violent far-left activists and found out why recent events have got them fired up. That morning, in an apartment in Paris, paintball projectiles to be thrown at riot police are being prepared, very studiously.
The paint will splash the policemen's helmets and visors. They'll have to move away to get it cleaned up.
The young people here refuse to show their faces for fear of legal reprisals. What they're doing goes against the law. But Lucy, who is a student in philosophy, believes this type of action is the only way she might get her voice heard.
To really make a change so that our political existence isn't confined to just voting, we have no choice but to step over the line. Casting one's ballot every 5 years, that has no political impact. This is why we have no other choice but to break the law and get off the beaten track.
Getting off the beaten track is something Lucy already knows all too well. Off camera, she claims to have destroyed and spray-painted public property, thrown projectiles at the police. Actions many in France strongly disapprove, yet she refuses to be called a casseur, a breaker.
There's a lot of anger because these are people who have already experienced political violence, who have reached a dead end in their relationship with the state and the economic system. But you also have people who have found their political path in physical confrontation.
Elsewhere in Paris, members of the Anarchist union are also preparing themselves, but in a manner that's entirely different. They have the usual banners and loudspeakers, but also a very well-organized security service. We are denied access to a meeting during which today's security strategies are to be decided. The man in charge of security, Erwan, tells us why.
At this point in time, we're in a situation and a context which is quite complicated. We're faced with the rise of the far right, so this means groups that are getting more violent. But we're also faced with police violence, so we prefer to remain discreet when it comes to how we protect our group.
Time for them to head over to the demonstration. And that's where we meet with Lucy once again. She's making her way at a rapid pace to the front of the protest.
We're going to the front to avoid the trade union security from blocking us.
Once in position, Lucy gets equipped. A whole different attire to conceal her identity. For over an hour, she and around 100 other people are blocked by riot police. Lucy feels this is part of a deliberate strategy to provoke them.
The riot police is closing in on our group. They want to put pressure on us. Either they'll try to take us to the police station, but I doubt it since there are so many of us, or they'll let us go, but not without beating some of us up, as usual.
Those paint projectiles haven't proven to be very efficient. Eventually, the demonstration is allowed to continue. Along the route, a lot of property damage is done. Lucy decides to maintain a low profile. She'll eventually change back to her normal outfit. Meanwhile, Erwan and his anarchist union are marching, as is their tradition, behind the main workers' unions. at the rear end of the demonstration. Erwan says he understands why some protesters are resorting to violence.
From the very start of these demonstrations, there's been a lot of police violence. We're enduring the violence of capitalism, governments and big corporations, so it's a legitimate anger that's expressed here.
France's National Confederation of Labour does not partake in violent operations. For activists such as Erwan, general strikes and blocking the economy would be their weapons of choice to topple the current system. As the Anarchist Union finally reaches the end of the demonstration, they come face to face with the riot police. The situation quickly takes a different turn. Erwan, increasingly on edge, fears his group is going to be mistaken for rioters and arrested by the police. He shouts out orders, mobilizing the union's security squad. No arrests are made. The demonstration soon ends. But 3 days later, at the very same place, another demonstration has turned violent, with a group of mostly young rioters engaging in skirmishes with the police. Lucy is there once again, all geared up. She's not throwing any projectiles, but follows the action closely. Eventually, she leaves the scene, but on her way, she witnesses something that has struck a nerve.
Some of the things that are taking place are so bad, so negative, so dirty, that we feel we should do more than just fight back with projectiles. We really want to counterattack. They can go all out on the repression. We won't step back because in the end we have nothing to lose. There's no future and there's no present.
Lucy, Erwan both claim that their activism is legitimate, but their approaches are very different. While demonstrations and strikes are very familiar concepts to the French, rioting, property destruction, and violence against the police are proving very unpopular.